Hello and welcome to the Art Department podcast. It's Urschel here in Singapore and Emmanuel Shiu in San Francisco. We're at episode 34. We have another interview lined up and we have a very special guest. We have, as you just already saw in the intro, he made a really cool short film. But there's a lot more to him than just cars and a lot of loud music. Here's Naeem, and he will be sharing a lot of cool things with us. So he is a concept designer, art director, now director. He founded his own studio, worked on a ton of amazing movies, and has generally, I think, a lot of very interesting things to say. So he joins us out of Los Angeles, and maybe you can say a few words, kind of give a bit of the highlights of your career so far, and just people a little bit of background who might not know you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Naeem. I am a director, an art director, and concept artist. I come up by trade as a concept artist. That's been my bread and butter for many years. When I was 16, I realized that's what I wanted to do. I found Sid Mead in a magazine somewhere, and that was the day. It was in art class in high school. I was in, I think, 10th grade, and I was like, okay, this is it. And then I went home, I looked it up. I found Art Center College of Design listed on his educational background. I saw some interviews, and this is where Noman was pretty big. So I bought one of his DVDs, and then another one by Ryan Church. And that's where I was so blown away, and I entered this like romantic period of my life. My parents thought, I was going to go to med school or law school, and they were, really excited by it. They're immigrants, so they were extremely disappointed that I chose my path, because I don't blame them. Art, it's such a niche market that we're in that people don't even know about it. And so they thought, he's just going to throw away all our hard work on a pipe dream. So my dad, I think, envisioned me as this and nothing against people drawing in Central Park, but that's what he pictured in New York. They do like $20 portraits, or like, at a theme park. But I convinced him, no, it's not the case. So I moved out in 2006. And, the whole rags to riches, the riches are yet to come, but the rags part has been endured. And I'm pretty, we're all doing decent, and I'm pretty happy with where I am in life, but of course, going elsewhere and above. But I worked for a few years to work up a portfolio at Art Center. I applied as entertainment design, car design major, because that's what Scott Robertson, Ryan Church, Sid Mead, all those guys had done. But back then there was no entertainment design major. So they kind of, carved out this field. And when I got in, I received like a Toyota scholarship, all this stuff. I worked really hard. I wasn't feeling entertainment design. I was a car enthusiast and a designer, but I didn't, I didn't care for cars in the way that most people do. And I liked them visually, but I didn't even know what a carburetor was, I think, when I entered Art Center. So I very quickly realized I was in the wrong major. I met Scott Robertson in my first year, and I showed him my portfolio, and I said, I've always wanted to do entertainment design. It just didn't exist until I got here. So can I transfer? So it was very nice. He transferred my scholarship, and that's where I met Scott. And he was probably the most fundamentally pivotal person that I've ever met, because he was there right at the beginning and kind of guided me. And he showed me what hard work was. I interned for him at Design Studio Press when he owned it. And so he helped publish a book, Drive. We did that with Danny Gardner. Yeah, Danny Gardner, Scott Robertson, and I. After that, we did Blast. And then I went back to Art Center. I actually, I was around 21 at this time. I got a call. And this actually, I want to touch upon this later, the power of social media. But back then, this is like the birth of social media, right? 2010. Facebook was just taking off. People didn't know what it was. And people thought, oh, it's just a bunch of likes, right? what is that? What does that get you? It's just attention. It doesn't translate. But I should have listened to what actually happened because everyone was trying to get into the union. I was still in school. Um, I was in my second year, and all of a sudden I got a call from Rupert Sanders for
Oh,
Snow White and the
yeah.
Huntsman, and he's like, "Hey, I saw your painting." Well, it wasn't him; it was his assistant who had me come in, and then I could talk to him. But in any case, yeah, the assistant was like, "Hey, Rupert saw your painting. He loved it. He's very insistent that he wants you." Um, so I came in, and they were shocked that I was 21, and I was this like, it was nice. I was like, first time I went to Universal Studios, all the stuff, and I was on the back lot, and I had like a really, rickety car, so my bumper was scraping. I was super embarrassed because, it's just like all these rich folks around. But anyway, went to meet him. Super nice. I worked for a few months. I didn't even know what the union was at the time, um, and I missed my opportunity. And I didn't even know you're not allowed to work in the union without being in the union. I charged so low. I shouldn't even be saying this stuff. So let's just move on past this.
No,
Um,
no, no. But I mean, I actually think this is really important because
okay.
hopefully nobody you know does that.
They didn't take advantage of me. I think my excitement took advantage of myself. Because at the end of the day, when someone tells you a rate, you're not going to be like, hey, you should charge more. So at the time, I was used to working minimum wage jobs. So for me,
Mm.
I was working at a pizza place at the time, and I was making $12 an hour or something like that. So I said, I won't say the number, but it was a low number. It was just a little bump, they were
Gotcha.
like, yes, and I was like, what? Yes, no negotiation, and they're like, yeah, 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 nope, nope, you're good. Anyway, the experience was great. I quit the movie because the next semester was starting, and Rupert was like, come on, man, like you don't need school, come work, finish the movie, and I was still like under the impression that I needed a degree of some sort, um, and that the degree meant something, and which means nothing in art, literally zero. Like no one cares. Um, but I mean, it matters, I suppose, if you move into like if you want to work in management, you need like a master's or something at a company. But if you start your own company, still no one cares. Um, so that went on, and I went back, and that's when I fell kind of out of love with concept art already. I think my romantic period was beginning to become, its heyday, like its prime was kind of coming to an end, and I was about 23, 24, turning
Oh
about
my
there.
God.
So I felt very depressed, and I was like, okay, what do I do? So I took After Effects class, and I made my first like foray into filmmaking. It wasn't true filmmaking. It was this Liquid Skies thing. I made up like a fake trailer, and when I released it, it went viral, and I was so shocked because I thought it was awful, and I didn't think that it would go anywhere. And I actually didn't even know about copyright at the time. I didn't know that I couldn't just take a song and put it over my thing and to credit
Mm.
the artist and be like, cool, like, yeah, we're good. And I thought, I mean, I knew to a degree that that was wrong, but I was like, I'm just a student. This isn't going to blow up. It's just my student thing. Well, I put it up on Vimeo. The next day it was a staff pick. And then I got a call from the lawyers, and YouTube blocked me. And there was a huge fight. Like they came down on me hard. And I used Amon Tobin, Two
Oh,
Fingers.
okay.
I used their track, and then it went spiraled out of nowhere. And somehow Amon himself and Joe Doubleclick, they saw it, and they pulled the reins on the lawyers. So they messaged me on the side, and they were like, "Hey, we really love your stuff. Like, congrats." And so Aman was like, "Hey, do you want to put it? I'm releasing like a limited vinyl edition. Do you want to put this as part of like an official music video?" And I was like, "Yes." um,
Uh,
and once again, awful negotiation skills. I like paid them to put it in there because they were like, we're gonna. The lawyers were like, we're gonna need a licensing fee. You can only license for a year, and So we did. I paid them a few $100 to license the track so I could keep showing it on YouTube without them taking it down and Vimeo. So that was fine. And then fast forward, they they basically, and then I didn't get any money for that. So no harm done, whatever. I learned my lesson. And then fast forward, I went through the motions. I went through, I think the biggest thing that as an artist, I know some people that I know are not emotional, but I consider myself to be very emotional, at least emotionally charged, internally, I should say. So I'm affected by loneliness or heartbreak, things like that. So I know that's personal, but it does affect me. And I have some friends that went through the same things that I did, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I just go out, party, forget about it. And I was like, to me, the world was ending at the time, going through some of those experiences for the first time in my life. And that really threw me off. I started to, and this kind of segues into like, I'll talk about some of the projects I worked on, but this is naturally segueing into the next thing that I want to touch upon later, or maybe we will. But it is the power of positive thinking and the power of negative thinking, and idea parasites. Jordan Peterson talks about I think I don't know if he coined it or Sam Harris, but it's like ideas can be pathogens, and they can infect your mind and debilitate you to a degree that you didn't think and you're not even aware, and it's like a virus that takes over you. So negative thinking and negative loop thinking can really propel you into a loop that you think is, you're so cool, I'm a nihilist, atheist, whatever, but you're not. And it took me 10 years after that to realize that having a smile on your face and being nice is way harder than being like depressed, morose, emo, all this other stuff. And that nihilism isn't cool, and that people that are outgoing, it might not be easy as it looks, and it's actually very difficult. So I had to kind of practice positive thinking and pull myself out of that years later. And that's when I really began to, flower and blossom into the person I am today. I know that's a cheesy analogy or metaphor, but I feel like, that kind of helped. But going to talk about projects, I worked on Lion King movie, Jungle Book, Avatar, Tron, Uprising, God of War, the game, Jungle Book, Ghost in the Shell, tons of projects. Jan and I, we've worked together recently on a project we can't really talk about. That's where we actually officially met, although we've known each other for many years, just on and off. But
I have the books. I remember the Blast and the Drive book. That was so amazing.
Yeah. But that again goes to show power of negative thinking. When those books came out, I felt like self-promotion was dirty, and I was being just indulging myself in a very negative thing that was dirty for some reason. I don't know why I thought it was beneath me, and it's bizarre.
Cool for that, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even too cool. I just felt guilty. I was like, oh, what will people think? They think I'm just throwing myself out there, like I want attention, like I just thought it was a negative thing. And I really regret thinking that way, because the attention was there and I could have built, an online social presence, and I actively sabotaged myself. And I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. But yeah, it was like, it's to the point like I was like, yeah, I'm cool because I don't want it. But now, it's the domino effect. The dominoes build, and 5 years later, 6 years later, 8 years later, you realize, I actually, didn't do myself any favors there. So, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, there's something interesting I wanted to just quickly ask that comes to mind. I mean, you went through, one of the biggest, most famous design schools, and you did like transportation design, entertainment design, this kind of thing. But I don't know, I feel like just talking to you here and getting to know you a little bit better, you talk about the emotional component you have, and being affected very much, and you feel like the whole self-promotion social media thing is a dirty thing, or you thought at least
I
like
used
that.
to, yeah,
Used to, but I don't know. Like I wanted to ask that. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an artist, a creator, designer? Like how do you? What is your attitude towards that? Do you think it matters at all?
Yeah, it actually does. So there's that's another part of myself that I had to come to realize, and meditation was a big part of it for me. It was the idea of loyalty. I felt for many years I was holding myself back because I felt I was cheating on concept art if I did something else. It was so bizarre. I don't know why. And I didn't even actively, consciously think of it. But eventually I came around to it and I was like, why do I think that? Why do I think that if I do something else that I'm cheating? And it's some bizarre, I don't know, but something from my childhood. Maybe it's my upbringing. I don't know what it is. So I refuse to like, let myself even think of those things. And so I'm. Can you reframe your or re-ask your question? I feel like I'm digressing.
No. It's like it's. I think it's about self-image and how you
Yeah.
perceive yourself. If do you feel like you're a designer, a problem
Oh,
solver, or
yes.
do you feel like you're an artist? Like you need.
Yes. So I had to classify myself as a creator, and I had to see myself as I don't do one thing, and that's me, and that's what I like. I don't just do concept art, and I have to actively prevent myself from, chasing likes. And even now that I see the power of social media, even now I have to still stop myself. It's like, okay, I accept the power of social media, but that doesn't mean that I have to succumb to its side effects or its negative things, which are chasing likes, right? So, nothing against castle paintings, but they're a common theme that people do, right? And it's good practice for beginners, but I feel a lot of people become stunted, and they really do them to just chase likes, and it works to a certain extent, but I feel for me personally that wouldn't make me happy, so I refuse to do things like that. And other people, it does make them happy. They really genuinely enjoy that, and if that does, then that's perfect. It's not chasing likes. Then that's what you're meant to do. That's what you like to do. Good. So I see myself as a creator, and that comes down to like making things move. For the last like 6, 7 years, I've been making short films just silently over and over again. I've easily, I won't say the numbers, but tens of thousands of dollars I've just drowned into unsuccessful short films. I've friends have made big sacrifices for me. One of my best friends, Rudy Schaefer, he's an art director in the movie industry. And he's done a lot of production design projects for me. And I remember him saying on the last one, he was like, please don't disappoint me. Finish this, please. And that really stuck with me. And I told him, I promise you I won't. And I still haven't finished it.
Are you
Oh.
talking about live action short
Yeah,
films
so
or?
yeah, live action. So that's mainly what I do. The animated stuff I do because I refuse to spend any more money. So it's like I spent enough money on live action. I'm really good at it now at the editing, the sound, the production, directing actors. And now I get it. Coming up with the idea, I actually feel a thrill on set, like I'm in my element. So I realized the first time I ever shot a short film, one, I realized I had way overstepped myself. Two, I realized I hadn't planned at all when I thought I had. Three, I realized that this was what I was meant to do. Um, and the problem was the first two things. And then I shot another one and I made the same mistakes, but less. And on the second one, I realized the power of the universe, how it does conspire to help you succeed if you set things in motion. But if you don't, nothing will ever happen. And there were so many 911 fires. My heart rate was just, sleeping like 30 minutes a night, even though I was trying to force myself to sleep like at least 2, 3 hours. But I just couldn't sleep because so many things were going wrong and all my money was going up in flames, and I put everything I had into it. But the lessons learned, because I didn't go to film school, I just decided this is my tuition. I'm just going to do this and I'm going to learn just by failing. And I did. I learned these valuable lessons. I learned how to handle crews. Learned how to produce, work with producers, hire these people. I like insurance, this, and what it all takes. And then I, receded, and a lot of it has to do with like not completing things is has to do with like emotional state. And the biggest thing for me in my 20s was the loss of my why, which is, I believe, is the core nugget. It's your gem, your diamond. That it's like if you're in like Infinity War or something, or you're Iron Man, it's like your thing, your source of fuel. And when I was when I was coming up in my early 20s, I came from a very poor background. So I had one mission, which was to buy my parents a house and give them what they never had, and what I never had. And I did it. By 26, I did it. And then I didn't have a goal. I lost my goal, and I was like, well, what do I do now? And I was going through, like, of course, as I mentioned, all the emotional changes, but then the biggest, I think, problem was um, not having a goal after the goal, a larger vision for your life. And I think, I don't know where, Tony Robbins talks about it, and I found out about that concept when I was 28. Jonathan Berube I believe, on Avatar. I think I was 28, 29, something. Um, we um, we were sharing an office, and he told me to read a Tony Robbins book, and I was like, that guy's hacky. Um, but no, he had so many. The thing is, what I finally realized is that even if someone's hacky, if they have a lot of attention, there's something that they're saying that's um, vibrating on a frequency that is resonating with people. So I listened to what he said, and I think it was him that it was something about, he was saying something about the goal after the goal, and he's like, that's what people don't realize, that they have to have a goal after the goal, because if you get to the goal and you don't have another goal, you're gonna just like your world's gonna fall apart. And that's literally what happened. My goal was to become a concept artist and do really well, and I did that, and money was coming in. Relatively speaking, to being super poor, it was like more than I could imagine. um, but so anyway, I did a lot of the work of like internal work, which I there was another book that I read, and I can't remember now, but I don't know if I read it in a book or heard it in a podcast, but at some point I heard this thing where someone said, it amazes me that people go to work for other people every day, but they never stop to go work for themselves or work on themselves. And they were talking about the power of meditation, and they were saying, why can't people just take 20 minutes to themselves, and that's their job. They're taking the nuts and bolts of their mind apart and putting them back together and really observing what's happening in their mind. And when I realized that, I was like, yeah, I can dedicate 20 minutes to myself. You think you're dedicating 20 minutes to yourself when you watch TV, but you're not. And it's really hard meditating, because especially now with like all the NFT stuff going on, this morning I was trying to meditate, and 20 minutes I set a timer, and every few minutes I was like a crack addict. I was like, come on, man, just check Twitter just one more time, maybe you have a few more likes. um, and it's times like that when you really, I personally feel, need to have way more control, and meditate more, because your mind is, it's too, the waves are just crashing, and you need to like settle it and address and process the information that's trying to get processed, so you can go back to being calm and sort of remind yourself, because a lot of it, what I realize is like, even if I journal, which I do journal almost every day, um, and then do like there's like a goals diary that I have that I read every morning. All of this sounds super cheesy because I was told this growing up in high school. Write your goals down, write them down, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna write down my goal. But the problem is that you need to, in my experience, those goals need to be read every morning, like a form of prayer almost. So there's a whole routine, and it's called the Miracle Morning routine that I discovered a few years ago, where it's basically it's an hour-long session, and I consider it my prayer, so to speak, session, where it's not actually praying. Uh, you spend 10 minutes right when you wake up. You just sit there, nothing. You just let your mind wander. Then 10 more minutes of meditation. Then 10 more minutes of visualization. Um, and visualization usually means like, and this is going to sound cheesy again, but I'm
No,
telling
not at
you,
all.
it changed my life. The visualization is like, you write these secrets to yourself. No one has to know. It's you, between you and your page, and you realize how much your mind holds you back. You don't want, you think you're not worthy. You think that you can only be, I realized that my greatest desire was to make a few hundred K, and hope that I could make more. But then I realized I can give myself permission to start a business. I can give myself permission to be a director. I can give myself permission to do these things. Um, Once you give those yourself permission, it's scary because your mind is like, well, you can't do that. Like, come on, man. Like, just go back into the comfort. Like, go for the W-2, the employee job. Like, it's easy. You come home, you watch TV, you hang out with your family. But then just that thinking alone, the exercise alone, um, is really, really, really insane because your mind, if you watch it and you observe it, it fights back big time and it tries to pull you back. So that really fundamentally changed me. I think just the miracle morning routine. It's by Hal Elrod. He kind of cobbled together all these different disciplines. And then there's like 10 minutes of exercise, then 10 minutes of like, I usually skip the affirmations part. I find that even for me, that's a bit too cheesy, where you're like, you're awesome.
Oh, in the mirror
I,
or what?
I
Okay,
don't, I
okay.
don't do that part. I tried once and I was like, ugh. But maybe eventually I'll come back on this podcast 5 years from now and I'll be like, man, you got to do those affirmations. But right now, I'm just focused on observing myself, writing my journal, my thoughts, processing them, reading my goals, uh, just reaffirming them to myself. And it's so funny if you just do it for 2 days in a row, you'll realize on the second day that you forgot everything you wrote the first day. So if you just read it, you're like, oh my God, I told myself I was going to do it and I didn't do it. And within a matter of a few hours, I forgot about it. Um, I've really read that to be truly successful in this, you must do it twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. I just don't have time for that, so I just do it once in the morning. But yeah, I
That's a lot more than I do. I'm trying meditation and I'm up to 5 minutes before
yeah
I'm like, I
yeah
I
I
gotta
know
do something.
it's hard.
So
It's hard.
I'm not quite there.
Yeah,
I don't know
so
about you, Jan.
No, no, no. I think I kind of I wanted to try out one of these meditation apps, and that didn't really get me anywhere.
yeah.
But I'm really curious to hear to maybe hear more about this or just read more about it. Do you have any books, anything that people could like pick up to learn a bit more about this?
Okay.
Maybe
Uh,
not the most hardcore thing you encountered,
yeah.
but I don't know, maybe a good entry point for people to uh, explore this.
Sure.
I
You
want to for
actually,
sure.
yeah, you actually don't. I don't want to talk smack about Hal Elrod because I don't want to pull money out of his hands. But you need the book that he wrote, and I think is, I'll just go ahead with my thought and then diverge again to what I
Yep.
was going to say. But the book is called The Miracle Morning Routine. And if you Google it, that's literally all you need. There's a list, and that's it. He writes this book, and it's literally like an infomercial. It's like, and then I'm gonna tell you the secret. But wait one more page, and by the time you get, it's like a 50-page book. You get to the end, and he's like, and you're gonna buy my course. And I'm like,
Okay.
what? I didn't. Like I kept waiting for the good stuff that you said was coming, and it never came. And then I just went on Google and I realized I could have just bought, like not even bought, just Googled Miracle Morning and the book was there. It's just literally a sheet,
Okay.
it's a checklist. So that's the most basic thing that you can do. And people have made like some nice descriptions, and it's just a one-page thing that you need to read. And I guarantee it will change your life if you do those steps.
Yeah. So it's up to you to
Because
do it. Yeah.
to me, it's like it's not even about my professional life. There was a time I got married. I met my wife, the perfect person, most brilliant person I've ever known, and I consider myself like, if I were to create a metaphor for myself, it would be fire, and if I were to create a metaphor for herself, it would be water. Literally, 100%. She's calmed me down tremendously. So um, the thing is, sometimes my fire or my emotions kind of get the best of me. I get excited or stressed, like work's going crazy, and I don't know how to process it. And I was, being a bit difficult. And that's really, she was like, you need to, like, whatever's going on, you need to fix it. And that's when I really discovered the meditation part, because I bought the book. I was listening to a real estate investing podcast, and how Elrod was talking on the podcast. It's called Bigger Pockets Podcast, and he was there. And yeah, I listened to him, and then I bought his book, and that's, then my wife literally, it was like night and day. And many days when I've gone, like maybe I'll go like 5 days without doing journaling, my wife can tell the difference. Where she's like, hey, have you journaled lately? Because you're being kind of a douche.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then all of a sudden I journal, and she's like, wow, it's amazing. You're so, like normal again, and nice. So, and it's not like I'm being an ultra douche. It's more like little things, like you're easily irritable.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
just, you don't even know these thorns are poking your mind, and you're not processing them. And I realize it's so important. So the book is the big one is the Hal Elrod book. What was the name of it? The Miracle Morning. Then the next book that changed my life was The One Thing. That really changed my life. I read that.
Oh, that's the
Uh,
title, is it? That
it's
one
called
thing?
The One Thing,
Okay. We'll
and
put the links in the description. Yeah.
yeah, The One Thing. It's by. Do I have it here? Sorry, I thought I brought it here. Oh, there it is. It looks like this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's by Frank Keller. What is it? Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Um, that to me was the most fundamental book that was also life changing, because it talks about focusing your laser beam instead of there are many proverbs that he chooses in here. I've even marked some of the pages. Where are they? Come on, give me a page. Um, it's like, you can't catch a rabbit if you follow both trails, or like two different trails. You'll never catch a rabbit, or it's just silly things like that. But his thing is intensely focused on doing your one thing and doing only that, and getting really, really, really good at it, and focusing your life force and your energy on that, and figuring out what that is. And along with that, he teaches or preaches thinking big, which is big, which is huge. And he talks a lot about practicing your muscles in your brain, of the thinking big muscles that allow yourself to think big. And those have been super fundamentally life changing for me. There's another one called The Obstacle is the Way, by Ryan Holiday. Those are just like little stoicism um,
Hmm.
helpings that he talks about. Um, and it's really just about like staying cool. And amongst pressure, and the harder path is, while it's not easy and maybe not look like the most appealing, a lot of times that is the way, because you're supposed to learn certain things that you otherwise would not, be equipped with to succeed if you avoid them. And there are plenty of other books. Actually, the biggest one, if you're into going into business, I recommend The E-Myth. This
Okay.
It's The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, or Gerber. I'm not sure how to say his last name. Um, that's been super insanely mind-opening for me when I picked that up a few years ago, because he talks about various scenarios, and the very first scenario that he opens with is a lady who was the best baker in the world. Everyone told her, "You're amazing. Your cupcakes are insane. You need to open a bakery." And she said, "Okay, I'm going to open a bakery." And so I think it's a writing tool. I don't think maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but it's really well written, very engaging. And he sits down with her and he has these talks and back and forth. And she says she hates her life now. And she's had a business, a bakery, and she's like, she's never been more miserable. She hates the idea of cupcakes. She hates the idea of a bakery. And he talks to her and he asks her why. And then he explains to her why she does. And it's basically because she liked baking, but she didn't go into business for the art of business. And those two are two different things. And that can kind of translate into concept art or directing. Like, if you are a technician or an entrepreneur, and you have to, the technician gets to work and wants to do all these little things, but then the visionary, the entrepreneur, needs to step back and look at the whole picture rather than just, getting into the nitty-gritty stuff. So I'm, challenging myself with that and addressing certain things like Excel sheets, tax documents, and things like that more, and encouraging myself to do it with my business, simply because I want to be a well-rounded person. So if you're ever thinking about going to business, or just even if you're not, I would highly recommend The E-Myth. It's really well written and it will open your mind, in my opinion.
That's really cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, was there something you want to ask?
No,
Emmanuel?
no. I mean, yeah, no. That's really cool. I mean, when I think about business, that's definitely one thing that I know I tend to shy away from. Although I have my corp, but I'm just, I can't, it just can't for the life of me. Like, I when tax time comes around, I mean, I'm under the covers. I just don't even want to think about it.
It's
And
awful.
it's just, I mean, I really, it's just, even when people ask me, do I want to be a production designer? I'm like, no, I don't want to think about sets. And just let me be in my corner and paint and do what I do, and we'll call that a day. But I'm the worst when it comes to business side.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate, that you're learning to do better. And I know Jan's definitely on that train now.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I
Hard.
mean, do you think, there's always that question that I think, especially now with, we don't really want to talk about NFTs or anything, but there's that temptation to say that, okay, you can be an artist, and you can have, there are now different possibilities on what you can do with your art, and often it is seen as that if you're an artist, you can reach certain, at least within the commercial world, you can reach certain heights as an artist, but then ultimately, if you want to do more, you have to go into art directing, you have to go into managing people. How, you mentioned that you were really early on, kind of your honeymoon was over with concept art, and you felt like you needed to do something else. I mean, how do you, is that kind of the seed for that, you felt like there was the seed for you now opening your own kind of studio and trying to branch out, that you
Yeah.
felt that so early on? Or
Yeah, it was. Basically, it was a seed for me venturing into filmmaking, and as a bigger thing, like more than just concept art. But ultimately, what led me to business, I think, ultimately was having my son. And when he was born, he's almost 2 now. When I met my wife, I found my why again. I was passionate about concept art. I started painting a lot more. I was very happy. Things um, Before we get into the business, I want to kind of touch upon like um, essential like needs that I believe a human has that need to be addressed. It's kind of like the food pyramid for your brain, um, at least in my journey, which is that uh, if if I don't address like there are certain things that you just need to get out of the way. Like, and I can equate it to a computer. Like if you have Octane running, then you have 10 videos playing, and then you have this other thing and that other thing. Your processing power just goes down. Everything just starts locking up, and you need to shut down some programs and really get back to just what you're supposed to be doing, which is one task. Um, I kind of see it that way with like life and partnership. I felt like I needed to kind of address that aspect. And when I finally did, I was like, the reason was born again. I had a purpose, which was a future for my family. Um, and when then my son was born, I was like, wow, I don't really have a retirement plan. I don't have a college plan for him. I was still paying off student loans. And I was like, what am I doing? You know? Um, so that's when I started heavily looking into real estate. So in the last, like before even he was born, I was really looking into real estate. And the other thing, the book that changed my life was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm not sure
Mm.
if you've ever read it, but when I read that, I think that might have been the first book I ever read on my journey, actually. And that blossomed into all these. And he was basically like, you're always going to be a slave if you do a W-2 job. If you're trading time for money, that's it. You're trading time for money. You're trading your life for money. Um, and what you want to do is you want to be making money when you're asleep. Um, Now, of course, money has never motivated me. I think if money had motivated me, I probably wouldn't have chosen concept art. You can
Yeah.
make way more money as, Wall Street banker or something. So I truly believe that you should never, actually, as a principle, ever focus on money. You should only focus on vision and uh, like where you want to be in life. And the bigger your vision, the more money you'll make. And you'll see every successful person always say the same thing. Money is a byproduct of success. And so your success will happen if you have a big enough vision and enough drive. So I, I don't know why I picked it up somehow when I was younger, but I never focused on money, to my own detriment at times, but it's okay. So going to the business part, I realized I needed to create something that was bigger than myself, and I needed to grow up. And I had my son, and also realized that the greatest thing that I have is spending time with him and my wife. That's what I want to do forever, and everything leads back to that vision. I just want more time with them. I don't want to miss, especially these years. And COVID has been a blessing in disguise. I know a lot of people have suffered, so I'm not, disregarding their plights. But for me, I was very fortunate, and I'm eternally grateful to the universe that I had, the opportunity to work from home. I was employed, and it's been nice. I got really close with my wife. And since then, I haven't missed like my son's first steps, his first words. He's still almost about to say his first words, really, but just a lot of the things that I would have otherwise missed. And that made me realize, okay, um, I need to refine my vision. What do I want with my business? Do I want $1 billion business? And I realized, no, I don't. That's not what I want. I could have it if I chose it, but no. The thing I want is to spend time with them. So I want, a specific set of things, and I won't go into detail, but I've addressed them in my vision, and I'm heading towards it. And I just want to enjoy time, do what I love, and go forward and spend time with them. And I believe that NFTs are great. It's a huge new Pandora's box that's opened. It has its ups and downs, like some of the Twitter stuff that's people are tokenizing tweets. Um, but overall, I think it's really good for the digital art community. Um, but NFTs, I feel like I was thinking about it this morning. It's the same thing as Patreon or
Oh yeah,
like
exactly.
Gumroad. It's just another iteration of it.
Yeah.
And I realized because my panic this last week or two, I was beating myself up. I was like, why? Why? Oh, why did you reject all the social media attention all those years? Why did you do that to yourself? Why, and I was all these negative thoughts, all this negative dialogue. And then I realized it's fine. I learned something from this, which is the power of networking, the power of social media, the power of building your brand and your name. Um, and once you build it, you're there for all future opportunities that you don't know that exist yet. So it's okay if you miss this train. To anyone that's listening, it's okay. Give yourself permission. It's okay, but change it next time. I am. I certainly
Yeah,
will.
I think a lot of people, think they're, like you said, you're missing out on the social media aspect,
Yeah,
on those years. But, and even now, there's a lot of people say, oh man, NFTs, I should have been on Twitter more
I
and all
know.
that. I'm like, but
You can't
the
go
truth
back.
is, you may have actually been doing yourself a favor, because in the end, um, that takes a lot of time, and maybe your self-development would have been stunted because you
Exactly.
took all that time to say, hey, I'm on Twitter all the time now, and
Yeah.
your growth would be a lot slower. And honestly, social media, and I really think we should do another episode at some point about social media because, lately, because of the NFTs, I've also found certain things that it can be quite draining, and it's not easy. But I think with this craze right now, it's just a lot of people are diving in because they don't really have a choice, but they don't really know how to handle the stress that comes with it, and
Yeah.
and that anxiety. So, um, but it's great that actually, I think for a lot of people, it's great that they don't actually have they didn't actually dive into social media that deep because
Yeah.
it
I mean,
comes at a
I
cost,
I
right? I
agree
mean,
with you. I certainly don't think I would have done much of what I've done if I was too busy tweeting. So there is that,
yeah, which reminds me, like, and I saw you post, sort of your work in progress of your latest project, and I kept going, you kidding me? Because I think one of the first ones was the jets flying. It was
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
the proof of concept, and then slowly you were working on the car one, and I was like, how the what? Like it was really cool, and I thought, well, you're doing this all on your own time, and I thought, well, Blender is good, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I really want to hear a little bit more also about like the why and the
Yeah.
how, like
Okay.
what made you do that and how did
Yeah.
you do that?
Okay. I think the seed of that is rooted in March of last year. Um, in December of 2019, Jan and I were working on a project, and it had been quite difficult. The people were not very pleasant to work with, and some of them were, but one of them wasn't. Um, and I gave a lot to the project. I worked overtime. I did a lot. Left and right. I was working from home, and they demanded more, and they kept demanding more, and they didn't really see what I was giving them. And before that, Jan, there was another. Just to ask, go further back in the seed. I was working production designing on another studio, and I developed central serous retinopathy in my right eye, which means losing vision. You get
Oh,
stress.
Jesus.
Your stress levels go up, um, and your retina starts separating from the
Oh
back
my
of your
God.
eye, and that's when I realized, holy cow! If I lose my vision, I'm done. It's over.
I mean,
And
what would happen? I mean,
yeah,
did you actually start getting blurry or
yeah. So one day I woke up, and that's when I made Plumehead actually. So the business stuff, like a lot of factors came in, and where life was like, you need to do this, otherwise, no, it's
yeah.
over. Um, so I my Plumehead stuff that actually marks the beginning of it because I quit my job and started making Plumehead because I was seeing all these colors in my right eye, which were really trippy. Um, And so I was just like, one day I was just tracing those things to describe to my wife what I was seeing on a sketch, and they were just like weird blobby shapes. Anyway, um, it happens. Usually it's when your cortisol levels are really high in your blood, um, and that's usually resulting from skin creams that have steroids, which I wasn't using. And if that's not the case, then the doctor was like, "Are you a type A personality?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I am." They're like, "You're a male, uh, 31, 30, and type A personality, and you're in a managerial position." So those were basically all the parameters for people with those with that CSR, central serous retinopathy, and basically it's genetic sometimes, and you're just more susceptible to it. So basically, the cortisol starts messing with your eyeball in the back and starts filling it with fluid. I don't know why, and it starts to separate, and you start having vision loss. And if you let it get bad enough and you don't manage your stress, it actually bursts and you lose eyesight forever, and it's permanent.
On one
So
eye or both?
usually it happens in the right eye. So
Mm.
for me, it's actually back right now. It's insane that I let it get to this level, but NFTs caused it. I was
Oh
so
no.
stressed.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I now have been meditating hardcore, like going on bike rides, really calming myself down. Like, whoa, how did I let it get this far? Um,
is it coming back like full on or just
Not
kind
as
of?
bad as before. So you start basically you start seeing like a dimness in the central like cone of vision, and then if once it dims, it actually starts getting super bright, and then it's like white light, like a grayish white light, and then then it gets really bad. You don't manage it, it starts warping, like people are like swimming, and then you can't look at things directly, like you need to look at it from the side of your vision. And if you really don't pay attention to your body, then you need to either go for surgery, which only fixes, it's like a band-aid on a problem, because it'll just come back and be worse again. So
So
um,
it's something that's you can manage
you can
if you.
manage
Uh-huh.
exactly with meditation. So I actually also picked up meditation for that reason. Just like really
Mm-hmm.
managing stress for, I'm just more susceptible to it, I suppose. It's not
I mean,
something
I just want to touch on that real quick because I know we said we wouldn't talk about NFTs
yeah,
in this episode, but I actually think this is a very good example of for anybody who's. I mean, I'm sure right now when this airs, I'm still sure there's a lot of people are into the
yeah,
scene and trying to get in the scene. Um, take a moment
yeah,
because I mean, on Anissa's, eye, there's the stress is manifesting itself, but for a lot of you, it could be heart condition. It could be, any number of things. And I think that, managing your mental health and your physical health in this time is actually really, really important and often overlooked.
yeah,
I am prime and guilty of that because there were weeks when I went through it where I was just, I was anxious, stressed, upset, all these feelings because, you're putting a lot of stuff out there
yeah,
and you're expecting sort of a certain price tag, or you're looking at your fellow artists and you're seeing, because it's so transparent,
hmm
you can see what everyone's making, and there's a lot of expectations. And I just want to take real quick just to say, I mean, you were just given an example of what stress can do to
yeah.
somebody.
No,
So,
totally.
you know, just really take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
yeah. So going back to the nugget, so in December of 2019, we had a large presentation for this client, and we were both, Jan and I were working at this company. And then they were like, "Oh my God, Anis, we love your stuff. Like it went over so well. I mean, they really loved it." And I was like, "Wow, great. Okay, thank God," because for a while there, I was stressed that you didn't like it. They're like, "No, no, 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 it was good." And then I didn't get a call back until March. And every time I'd email them, they'd be like, next week, please don't take another job. Please, 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 please. And I'd be like, no, man, I gotta take a job. And it's partially it is my fault for listening to them. Um, but they were a high paying client. They were paying really high rates. So I was like, okay, I have enough savings in the bank. I can do it. And I, went through like my acceptable emergency fund that like I'd set aside for, you set it like a padding before you go like really start going into your life savings. So I was like, so I'd burned through it by March or starting to, and I was like, fine, I need to figure something out. And I emailed them back, and they were like, yeah, um, okay, maybe we'll get you something. And it was just like very haphazard. And I was like, you know what, it's fine. And I just quit altogether. And they got super upset. And I realized they're not to blame. It was me to blame. I let it happen to me. It's my fault. If I depend on someone, it's my fault. And I was so angry at myself. And I was like, I have a kid. I can't be doing this. And then I went to work for Riot. And it was actually the first time I met you, Eman, because COVID happened and the industry crashed, right? And all the movies were getting shut down. And I was panicking and I was like, oh my God, what was I doing these 3 months? I should have just taken jobs and not concerned myself. And I was gambling my, uh, family essentially. Anyway, I luckily enough I managed to land a gig at just Jonathan Bervey really helped me out, and he was like, "Hey, you're perfect fit for Riot Games. They do your kind of work. You'd be CG art director. Do you want to take it? And I'll set up. I'll pass the contact along to you. Then it's all yours, and see where it goes if they hire you." So I did. I interviewed. It went great. Just in time, secured the job. But since then, I've been like, I can't let that ever happen to me ever again. So the nugget was born where I was like, I will use every single moment that I got back from COVID, from hours saved from driving that I would have to go do, and do something really productive with my time and do what I've always wanted to do and always said I would, which is direct something that I know I could, that, creates emotion and displays all the things that I can do, and use that to propel my business forward and move into business. So that's really where it all came from. And we could delve into how I did it for sure.
But
So,
why a car thing?
yeah, of course. So when I sat down, I picked up Blender. So when I got let go of the or ignored, I shouldn't even say let go because they didn't actually let me go. They just like kind of strung me along until they just dry me out. But in January, instead, while I was waiting, I took Von Ling's class for Blender, and I was like, while I wait, I'm just going to take this class and just up my skills.
A
And I
class like
did.
like online class,
Yeah,
or
Blender class. He teaches it every term. It's about 2 months long.
you mean like a
And
CGMA thing or something, or what?
no, no, it's just on his Gumroad. You just go on heavypoly.com and sign up for his class. Super amazing. Uh, I put my all into it. I treated it like a job because I told my wife, I was like, I'm not working, but I'm just going to treat this like a job. I'll still be here. I'll
Mm-hmm.
still help. I'm going to go up at 9 a.m. and I'll be back at 5 p.m. And in between, we'll have lunch. I'll go take our son for a walk, blah, blah, blah. But, she said, okay. So I really put a lot of effort into it. I did small freelance in between, which was like a week here, a week there, so not much. Um, anyway, I cut to June, and I made a few tutorials by now. I made some R&D, and I was already doing motion stuff, and I was getting really excited. And I was like, okay, I think it's time for me to do what I've always wanted to do. And I was like, by July, or August, I felt I was ready, and I started doing some R&D, and then I wrote down my limitations. So I was like, I don't know how to rig characters. I don't know how to like green screen people out, because I actually have a short film that I shot with green screen, and I didn't know how to do any of that. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to pay a rotoscope guy. It's going to cost me like 10 grand. So I'm just not going to just put that on the back burner until I know how. So I was like, I want to do something powerful that's live action, but also super stylish. And what can I do? And so I was like, I wrote down robots. I wrote down hard surface, anything that is simple to animate. And I landed on cars. And so then I wrote out my vision and I said, where do I want to be? So I wrote out, okay, I want to direct commercials for cars because I actually enjoy that. And I feel like I can bring something completely fresh to the table because I actually watched the commercial around that time when I was doing research, and something infuriated me so much. It was about a car, but it was all just a bunch of hipsters dancing, and it wasn't even about the car. And I was like, who watches this? How, like, someone got paid hundreds of thousands for this, if not millions, and why? And I'm sure there's a place and time for it, but anyway, I was like, I could bring something fresh, and I can show that it can really, move people. So anyway, I took my limitations and my constraints and said, great, now I have a box. And how am I going to expand from there? So all I needed was to learn simple rigging, which I did. It was super easy. You rig four wheels. Um, and then I was like, all right, now I just need to learn like camera rigging. So I did that. I built my own camera rigs in Blender. Um, and it was so easy. I mean, honestly, um, that's where there's this quote, and it's a Marxist quote, so it's not really appropriate for me to quote it, but it is appropriate. It says it goes along the lines, and someone used it to describe Amazon with success of Amazon, because it's the quote goes, there are decades where nothing happens, and days where decades happen. And I was like, whoa, that's a powerful one. Oh my God. I mean, if you really think about the context, they're talking about taking down a government and like, totally overthrowing like the democracy and putting in like a communist regime, whatever. But in this, it works in other contexts too. And what I realized was like, it's, people keep asking, how did you do it? But they don't see the 10 years of me shooting films and getting that experience, but I never broadcast it because I wasn't proud of it. So I've been editing films, my own films, and I've been making those edit choices. And like there are plenty of films that I think, especially with PC culture today, um, I knew that I was onto something when I made the supervising art director on Avatar. Uh, I won't say his name. I guess I kind of exposed him there now, so you can find it. He loved this 1 minute. I was doing a series called 60, 60, 60, and my goal on Avatar was for 60 weekends in a row, I would shoot 60-second short films and edit them and complete them every weekend until I was super good at it. I only made it like 8 films deep before I gave up. And I only gave up because I had a workout accident, and it was a really bad injury, and I couldn't sit, so I couldn't work anymore. I had to like lay down on my side, and I was just like rolling in pain for weeks. And again, another reason why life was like, see, you're not immortal. You need to really focus on creative business to protect your family. So anyway, uh, go back to Blender. I started in October, and I finished really in December. And then I sent it to my sound guys, the final edit. And between January, we were supposed to kind of finish it in end of Jan. Z-Lig, Sound, Matthew Wilcox, and Aaliyah Morrison. We go way back. We met years ago. They reached out to me after my first film that kind of went crazy, like 7, 8 years ago now. So we've stayed in touch, and they always said, like, if you ever want to do anything, they're really good. They're like, we'll do it. We'll work out a deal. So we did, and they did an amazing job. I was super impressed. But they put it on the back burner because they had like paid work that they had to address. Um, so it took about 3 months to do that, and now in March finally they finished, and I was like, it's time. And we wanted to noodle it more, and we just went ahead and did it. But again, find your box, find your limitations, work within those limitations, and make the best thing you possibly can. So my limitations were, I'm not that great at rigging, I'm not that great at animating, but I can animate a car, and that's what I do.
Yeah, and you didn't use somebody else's song this time, right?
Yeah, this time I did an original. And this time, I mean, I actually told Matt, I was like, I want the song to be the car. The music is the car. And because we were debating for a while if we wanted to add music. and he and Leah threw out an amazing like crescendo, that like hair raising thing at the very end. I did not expect that. I didn't think they were gonna like do, it just raises. So that was like, the collaboration, 100% them. But I had like by the time I reached out to them, I'd like I'd ripped sounds from all these car videos that I'd found and like cobbled it together. And it essentially had like a very firm rough draft for them to work with. And then I even drew like a crescendo map. I was like, oh, it wants to build and build and build and build and build. And then just like go from there. So they really understood it, and that was nice. As when it comes to animating, I mean, you can ask me any questions you want, but I don't know how much to delve into it.
Well, I mean, I don't think we have to get into the nuts and bolts because I think, that's definitely, unless you want to share it. But I mean, I just want to say when I saw it, I was pretty much blown away. And it takes a lot actually to blow me away because, we've seen so much, it's just, you see it everything. But when I saw that, there's just the different styles coming together. I mean, I could totally see that being a commercial. I mean, that, as is.
Yeah.
And I think, it's just, I think it's something for people to really look at and realize that comes from years of understanding, light, composition, styles.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and everybody has a different, like your path is you create exciting visuals. You're
Yeah.
not necessarily just a painter.
Yeah.
Because some people want to hone the craft of painting and, and I just want to say that, and you can paint obviously, but you're taking all your skills and making it into one, and you're being very strategic about it because okay, I don't have to animate. Most people don't finish their shorts.
Yeah.
This just doesn't
I mean, I
happen.
did that for 10
Yeah.
years.
Right, but and this one, you knew you could do it, and through
Yeah, I made
the
the goals
power of,
small.
well, I don't know about small because that
Yeah.
thing. I mean, I think this short is gonna bring you places, and I just want to say, I seriously was kind of blown away, and I don't know, Jan, how you felt.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing was that I saw like everybody else these little bits and pieces of what you
Mm-mm-mm.
shared before, like, oh, I'm doing a matte painting, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing this car thing now, right? I just saw these updates on Facebook and was like, it's like, I guess he's like playing around with like
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff, and I'm like, okay. And then like one day he messages me and like, hey dude, I made a car ad. You want to see it? And I'm like, huh? Okay. And I was like, shit. I had no idea, and that was just before the release. And
Well,
yeah,
thanks,
that
guys.
was
I really
like
appreciate that. That means a lot.
that makes sense. So what he did. So okay, now I get it, right? I mean, and it was really. I mean, I think I was kind of like you in the beginning where you said like you don't care about cars, and I honestly I don't. I have a car, it brings me from A to B, but beyond that I have no idea really what's going on under the hood. But I mean, I could appreciate that it was a really fresh take on something that was just overly done, because yeah, car commercials are what they are these days.
Yeah.
But I think what I mean, now that we've went through this whole through all these things that you mentioned and how it came together. I mean, it's still like the most mysterious thing for me is how to plan this thing out in the beginning, and how to actually go through with it and finish it, right? Because you don't only you don't have like the luxury of, most of us don't have the luxury to say like, okay, the next 3 months I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to be done and then
Yeah.
finished, right? I mean, we have all the other responsibilities, like you have family, you have a day job, and still you need to carve out time and make it happen, right? So I mean, I don't know if you can share anything that you feel like was instrumental in getting it done, right? I mean, you mentioned already things like write down your limitations, see what you can actually handle. But is there anything else you would recommend people to do if they want to really like execute on an idea they have?
Yeah. I would say the first thing is learning what you're going to sacrifice. For me, it was, I mean, COVID already made a lot of decisions for me. I couldn't go out to restaurants, couldn't go out on the weekends or nights, and just had to stay at home. Um, and or I could go out and exercise, which I do. So for me, it was work, family, and then food, like eating with my family, and exercise, and then my short. Literally, that was it. The thing that I had to do was actually my wife had to pull me away and be like, "Hey, like, just because we're eating together doesn't mean we're spending time together because we're still with our son now. We need to carve out time for ourselves too and just spend time together." So, um, to me, the greatest thing that I learned in this last year is balance and the power of the word no, saying no to things that I know I shouldn't do, and learning when to say no to those things, learning to say no to jobs, learning to say, I'm just not available. I don't have to give you an excuse of why I'm not available. I'm just not. I'm busy. And that those are the biggest things because I think when you're coming up in your early 20s to mid 20s, when you're trying to make your career, you the first thing you need to learn is that you need to learn to say yes to almost everything you possibly can. And then there comes a time where you like burn out and you realize, okay, it's over. Like, you question your existence and the meaning of your life essentially, and you spiral. And that's when you're like, okay, now I need to learn to say no. That's really when it's time. I feel like. I don't think you need to go to the burnout stage, but maybe if you can save yourself, I went too far, but
A lot of us
then
did, yeah.
that's where you're like, now I need to learn to say no. And Warren Buffett says it. He said there are about 5 things you can do in your life successfully, and everything else you need to learn to say no to. And I have figured out 4 out of my 5 things. My fifth one, I've just left it open. I kind of know what it is, which I'll do it in my 40s, but I'm not ready for it yet. It's a transition into another business that I have planned. But so anyway, going back to the short, you need to work out a routine. So wake up. What do you do? There's a specific time limit that you set. Bathroom. Don't use your phone. I mean, I know I said social media is important, but if you're really trying to get something done, you really have to focus on what you need to do. You weigh it against social. If social media is what you're trying to do, then and like you're trying to up your channel game, then great. Like that's your focus. Put that in your schedule. Part of my daily morning routine is actually writing out a schedule for myself. So I'll plan out my day, and they're not like, at 11:31 a.m. I'm going to do this. It's literally like things I need to do, and I give myself rough time slots. Um, and I intentionally include my family into the schedule, which I find ultimately before I wasn't doing it, and I felt really awful because I wasn't spending time enough with my family, and I felt like they were taking time away from me, and subconsciously I was punishing them to a degree. I wasn't doing it on purpose, and I didn't resent them. I was like, whoa, I need to change my attitude here because I'm doing it all for them, not for myself. They're my why, they're my purpose, they're my ultimate reason for everything. So I do that and I address all that. So I list them, they're included front and center into different time slots, and then work, food, exercise. Finally, you get to the evening. I do my evening chores, and then from 7 to like 1 a.m., that's all I do, my short film. My son goes to sleep at 7, so I have the rest of the evening off, and I could watch TV, do anything I want. But now 7 to 1 a.m. So that's almost a full day's work if you really work, you know. So you can get a lot done, and so that's just carving out that time, and you have to learn to say no to everything else. And then past that, you need to learn, like, just beat your head against the wall there and not give up. And when it comes to scheduling, the hardest thing that I learned over the last 10 years was doing the right thing. And that's actually this book, again, I know I've talked about it. It talks about that too. It says a lot of times you need to figure out what your one thing that you need to do is every day. Now, there's one thing for your life, then there's one thing for your 10 years, your 5 years, your 1 year, your week, your month, and your day. And everything, you work backwards and you work out your vision. And so, yeah, that's what I did. I was like, fine, in 4 or 5 months, I'm going to do this. In 1 year, this is going to happen. In 5 years, this is going to happen. And then it all came down, the decision was made. I need to make this short and it'll happen. And then I'll see what happens. I'm just going to give everything I have into it. So I did. And focused everything. And then I had to force myself. This is the key element that really set this apart from all my previous endeavors. I focused entirely on the idea first. Relentlessly. I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. And it's a 1 minute thing, and you could act like, it's silly. And, what idea are you talking about? But there is an idea. The idea of the car being the central character, it's transforming. There's a tunnel, it enters reality, it goes into the future, there's electric. I had plenty of other ideas, but I just really zoned down. So I picked a car, worked backwards, created the idea. It's an electric going from gasoline to the future. And then what I did was I essentially watched a ton of, it's like dedicated research, like almost every racing movie I could think of. And I screen recorded all of them. And so it's like hours, like easily like maybe 10, 12 hours of footage. And then I like edited, like this is really tedious. But I was like, no, I have to do the tedious stuff because this is the stuff I avoid. And then I'm like 6 months in and I give up because I didn't do this and I wish I had. And then everything's, you lose steam. So I cut up everything. And then I started choosing my scenes and I made these like Rip-O-Matics with these cars. And the shots didn't line up. Like from one scene to the next, it would be another car from another movie. But in my head, it made sense. And I made a flow of how it goes. And then I took out all the sound and I did like a cut up of my own sound. I ripped more sound from the internet and I just plugged it all in and I made that flow. And then every day while I wait for, like I'd start storyboarding, I put that in. Then I started like planning everything. So I took screenshots, I put scene numbers on everything, and there's really played the role of producer. And I went like this thing was supposed to be like 3 minutes in the beginning, and I brought it down to like 30 seconds, and then I expanded it again. Once I chopped like really down to 30 seconds, I expanded it to 1 minute again, and I gave myself some room. And then past that, I made an Excel sheet, and I turned everything red. I laid out all the scene numbers once I decided what my shots were going to be. I replaced with my storyboards, and then everything was red. So I had like a column for model, texture, blah blah blah. So you can get picture what the planning session of this is. And once I had it all, I finally, for the first time on a project, was like, this is easy. All I have to do is turn those things green now, and I had a plan. And even then, I didn't tie myself in because I had all these scenes. And my edit was way different when I made that spreadsheet. But I was like, I'm just going to keep editing every day. So sometimes I would just get tired of working in Blender or rendering or 3D. So I just open up Premiere and literally start a new document. It's just like Photoshop, you flatten the painting and you just cut. And you just have ideas, you watch something, you're like, oh, that was interesting, I'm just going to do it. And you recut. And I maybe like over 600 different edits that I did.
Seriously.
And finally, yeah, and then out of the 600, like I rendered maybe 100 that were like edits that I liked, and out of the 100, like there were final 3 and then 1. So, I it was just like over and over, just cutting, and then I'd bother friends, I'd bother you. I remember bothering you once. Gabriel, Jonathan, Seifel, all these friends. I would just be like, hey, like 3 a.m., like, hey man, just check this out. Let me know what you think. I don't know if this is right. And they'd give me some decent, like, oh, this isn't making sense. Like, what's happening here? A lot of times, it was just like placeholder shots, so they didn't understand what was happening, but I knew what they were talking about, and so it was fine. But yeah, so a lot of it was planning, and then past that, it was like just turning it all green and just recutting. Editing was the biggest part of it. I enjoyed that the most.
Mm-hmm. No, it shows, right? The incredible dynamic and everything. No, that's really that. I think that's really, really, really helpful. All really, really great pointers. I think I'm going to listen to this many, many times over to remind myself what I need to do in order to get any kind of project that I want to do.
Yeah, I would just say
Done.
read this book, because he
Right.
keeps saying
I
you
wrote
need
everything
to
down.
you need to learn to do the right thing. You have to
Right.
identify your right thing.
Oh, that's amazing. I think that's a great point. Do you have any more questions, Emmanuel?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
No, I think that was a fantastic journey from your mind onto the final project. I got a lot out of this, I have to say. I wrote down all the books, and I think I'm going to read every single one of them. And we're going to put all the links in the description for everybody else to check it out. Any final words, anything you want to plug? Maybe the handle to your new studios, any kind of social media things where people can find you. We'll put it in the description, but maybe you want to share something.
So you can find me on every single platform, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's just /Naeem, my full name, no spaces or dashes in between. My new studio is Plumehead, www.plumehead.com. It's based off my series that I created a few years back, inspired off my sun conure bird, which I love very much. She's a great pet. And so you can find me, and my website is anisnaeem.com.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that amazing knowledge, and there was a lot in there, I think. And thank you so much for everybody who was listening. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye.